Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and it's been 6 months since the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have been released, and I wanted to share my experience with you and show you how it's held up not only physically, but how it is to use every day. Now, as you can see here, this is an iPhone 8, the smaller version, and this is a silver iPhone. It's using the Apple case or cover. Here, this is the silicone case, and then this is the silver one, and of course it's been pristine because it's been in that case. If you look at the aluminum on the bottom, there's no issues there, and it's got a glass screen protector on it also, which is keeping the screen from scratching or anything like that, and I can link that in the description. It's just something I picked up pretty inexpensively. So physically, this one is doing great. It's working really well. Let me set this aside though, since I've used the 8 Plus a little bit more. This one is kind of my main focus for this video. So this particular phone, when I use it, if I'm not using this, I'm using the iPhone 10. I'm testing iOS versions back and forth, but when I'm using this throughout the different days and things, I'm not using it with a case or a screen protector, and I do that purposely to show you how well it holds up to different sorts of everyday life if you don't even protect it. So on the screen here, there's not really any scratches that you can see except for, well, really, I can't see any here. In very bright light, you might see some very light surface scratches, but really there's not much that you can see here. If I flip it over, there's none on the back right here, but there is a few scratches down at the base, and that's because I've been setting it down like this and then picking it up. So over time that will scratch a little bit, and that's to be expected just from daily use. So I set it on a table, usually on a microfiber cloth, or in my car in either a cup holder or in the glove box, which is also lined with felt-like material. So it's not really sitting on anything harsh, but it has scratched a little bit here. The camera lens has not scratched at all. That's sapphire, and unless you set that on something incredibly hard like diamond, things like that, it won't scratch. The aluminum is held up well. I haven't had any chipping or anything along the edges, no chipping on the bottoms or side, so that coating is holding up really well, which is better than the iPhone 7 Plus in my experience. So I'm not sure what they did differently, but it does hold up really well. Maybe it's the color and the way it's anodized, I'm not sure, but it does hold up very well. Now, aside from the solid design, this phone is really a perfection of the iPhone. The traditional iPhone design from the first one, actually, I have one right here. So the traditional one where there's a screen, a bezel on top, home button on bottom. This is kind of the pinnacle of perfection of that. And that really shows when you're using it. It feels very solid. This edge feels seamless right around the edge here. The screen is probably the best LCD on the market at this point. It's got a very great display, 1080p, and it just looks really good. You can't see the pixels or anything like that, and it just feels perfect for this phone. It looks great when you're watching video, and as far as the display goes, a lot of people will argue OLED is a lot better, but I don't think anyone is going to be disappointed when they see this display. It's got great viewing angles, and it's really good. Now, as far as the speed of the device, that's of course not going to be slow because it's this year's device, and it's also got the same chip that the iPhone 10 has in it. So if you're opening things like, say, Monument Valley, I just resumed that. You'll see how fast that was. If I open something else, maybe, let's see if we open a different app up here. Let's open Cosmo. I'm resuming that one. Of course, we can close that out and reopen it, and you'll see it opens pretty quickly. Everything just loads nice and fast. You're really not waiting too much for anything, and that part of it makes the phone a real joy to use. Of course, on this phone, you've got 3D Touch, so you can 3D Touch the side here, get your app switcher. Of course, you can swipe them off the screen if you want to close your apps, if something freezes up, and you don't get the 3D Touch on iPhone 10. So the experience is a little bit different from the 10 because you don't have your swipe gestures, but you do have the traditional home button, double click, 3D Touch. It's just really refined, more refined, I'd say, than the iPhone 10 at this point. Now, of course, with this phone, you've got great cameras too. Everything's super fast, and we'll just spin it around here. Everything's super fast. It focuses well. The video and the photos look great, and you can use it for 4K video recording. If I'm outside, I'm generally using this phone to record my iPhone videos when I'm doing iOS updates. So if I'm doing those, I'm recording from this in 4K. And many of you always ask me, what am I recording with? Or that looks great. And it's this phone. It's doing all the work for me, and I can't complain with the quality. Now, of course, everyone wants to know battery life. Battery life on this phone is great. Whenever I use it, it lasts me all day long, unless you're doing gaming all day long or maybe streaming YouTube all day. Otherwise, it's going to easily last you through a day of regular use of making phone calls, texting, checking email, listening to music. You'll get home and have 50%, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. But for me, this will easily last me at least a day. And then I'll come home, set it on my charger on my nightstand, the wireless charger, charge it overnight, and then use it the next day and repeat that cycle. I can plug it into CarPlay in my car, depending which one I'm using, and then it's got CarPlay and then it's charging. So if I'm doing that, I'll be way up in the battery, but for the most part, I'll have at least 50%. If I unplug it at 6:30 a.m. and go to bed at midnight, I'll have 40 to 50% battery left, at least in my use case. If there's one downfall to the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, that's iOS. So it's not really the hardware. The hardware is about as good as it gets for an iPhone. The downfall is really iOS, and iOS 11.2.6 is running on this one. When 11.3 comes out, it'll be a little bit more stable, hopefully, and when iOS 12 comes out, it's supposed to be much more stable. So Apple did this cycle where some time ago with Snow Leopard, where they perfected the OS and made it a lot more stable than it was before. They're planning to do that with iOS 12 here. So this year's iOS hopefully will be incredibly stable, but you'll see everything just seems to load nice and quickly, depending on what I'm opening here. See, some news will load here, and everything works just really well. I can't complain. It feels nice, fast, and fluid, and when I want to get something done, I can do it, not worry about the phone not working, and it's the best of the iPhones in my opinion. iPhone 10 is more of a beta or an experiment type phone that I really do like at this point, but 8 and 8 Plus is what I recommend to most people unless they want something that's all new feeling. So let me know your thoughts though on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. I look forward to using it for another 6 months or so and see what Apple does as far as some of the features. Unfortunately, we don't get some of the features that the iPhone 10 does, which is too bad, but we do get all the AR features with the camera and things. So I look forward to see what they're going to do with it. But let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.